Let's take a look at algebraic expressions and how they relate to input-output tables. And we're going to get our first look at input-output tables. So let's start off by taking a simple algebraic expression, and we're going to say 7 plus n. Okay, that's an algebraic expression. It's not an equation, because if it was an equation, it would have an equal sign. So it's 7 plus n, which means it's 7 plus a number. And you know what? We don't know what that number is. But then down here we can say, well, you know, let's say, what if n were 1? And what if n were 2? And what if n were 3? And let's see if we can use this algebraic expression to determine it. So the first one, 7 plus 1, we can say that is definitely equal to 8. And if we were to say n is now 2, we could say 7 plus 2 is equal to 9. And if we were to say n is 3, we could say 7 plus 3 is equal to 10. Well, the reason why these algebraic expressions are important is because once we know the expression, we can use that same expression over and over again, even if the number changes. And here's a good example of how that works. Okay, let's say that you had a job and it was working at Canadian Tire. And let's say that they paid you $10 per hour. All right, so you made $10 an hour for your work at Canadian Tire. And what you wanted to do is you wanted to come up with an algebraic expression that would help you figure out how much money you would make each and every week that you worked there. But the problem is that the number of hours changes from week to week. So what we could say is that if you had 10 and you multiplied it by the number of hours, so let's use, let's let h be the number of hours that we work. Okay, so we're going to say 10 times h is our expression. Because we know that each week the hours that we work is going to change, but we're still making $10 an hour, so if we multiply our pay rate by the number of hours that we work, we're going to end up with our total. So let's say for the first week, we worked, in week 1, h equaled 10 hours. Well, that means, so if we're going to say in week 1, h equaled 10 hours in week 1. Okay. All right, well, now all we have to do is we can actually figure this out. So 10 times, and h is equal to now 10, okay, equals our total, which is we made $100. But then let's say in week 2, h equaled 20. Maybe we got 20 hours of work in our second week. As you can see, 10h still works for this. This expression still works here. All we have to do is change 10. We change that out because we now know that h is in fact equal to 20. And we come up with our total, which is 200. We made $200. And it doesn't matter how many hours that we work from week to week, this expression here, 10h, always stays the same. And that is what an algebraic expression is for. And we can actually use those on input-output tables to show a number of different variations of the result when we use that algebraic expression with different input numbers. We'll take a look at an example right now. All right, this is an example of an input-output chart. We're going to see how it relates to our algebraic expressions here. So an input chart is basically the input is what our n is going to be. This is our unknown numbers. And what we're going to do is we're going to use those numbers to plug them in. The output is where our algebraic expression goes. So if we had, for example, 2n plus 1 as our algebraic expression, that would mean we're going to figure out what the answer is going to be when we figure out what n is. So let's put in some numbers and see where we're at here. So what if we were to put in 1, 2, and 3 on this input chart. So what we're saying here is when n is 1, this is what the output is going to be. It's going to now become 2 times 1 plus 1, which equals 3. Okay, so we see that answer because we're saying when n is 1, we just plug that number in for n, and that's what our output is going to be. Well, in this case now, we're going to say, well, what happens if n is 2? Well, now instead of it being 2 times 1 plus 1, it becomes 2 times 2 plus 1, which equals 5. Well, what if n is now 3? And this is all an input-output chart does, is it tells us, well, what if we input different values for n? What ends up happening to our output when we put in different numbers for n? Well, in this one, we've got 2 times 3 plus 1, which equals 7. And that is all an input-output chart does, is it tells us, here's your algebraic expression here. This is the values for n, and we want you to take the value for n and input it into this algebraic expression to come up with your output, which is your final answer.